Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary of SITREP for the day of 598 to 601 for the 14th to 17th of October. 4 days, because too busy. And 600 days, freaking hell, this Ukraine war, 600 days of war. And it was supposed to be 3 days. Anyway, so the just to sum up very quickly first, the Russian Avdiivka offensive is still ongoing, but the pace and the intensity is not as strong as previously. Kupyansk Front, the Russians are still pushing as well. The Ukrainians are still pushing in South Bakhmut, and there is still, major battles over at the Orikhiv sector. And the Ukrainians also launched a new attack down in the Kherson Front. So let's start off with some of these things that surrounding these things. There is a Ukrainian Mi-8 shot down over Ukraine. This is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry and very out of character. They did not mention where this Mi-8 is getting shot down. They basically learned from the Ukrainians, just saying one Mi-8 was shot down. And then over at Berdyansk, the Ukrainian forces somehow managed to launch a missile strike, a very successful missile strike on the air base in Berdyansk, and allegedly also at Luhansk, but the one at Berdyansk seems to be the major one, because in this airstrike over at this airbase, or rather airport, I think it's more like an airbase right now, there is a number of aircraft that was destroyed. According to Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source reported 9 helicopters of various modifications and special equipment was destroyed. An air defense launcher and an ammunition depot was destroyed. Sounds like a lot of stuff over these two places. And according to the pro-Russian sources, instead, the Ryba reported that this missile attack seems to suggest, based on fragments of the M74 cluster submunition, it looks like the Ukrainians are using the ATCMS. Basically, I'm not sure how do you pronounce this short form. Attachmis. The Attachmis is basically a long range rocket or high precision missile that is launched by the HIMARS or the M270, and basically they basically fired, and according to Ryba, they say 6 missiles was fired, 3 was shot down by air defense, and 3 other hit their targets. So it looks like cluster munitions are very effective in because they can cover a larger ground, so a lot more things can be destroyed. So the GLDSB and the ATCMS are used by the M270 at HIMARS, and this was not known to be given to Ukraine. So the based on the current assessment from the pro-Russian side, they say that this is most likely to be given to the Ukrainians under the guise of cluster munitions. That means they hide the fact that they are actually giving them long range missiles, and then they just classify them as cluster munitions that is probably fired from artillery. So these are all super long range missiles, more than 150 kilometers range. So they can basically hit anywhere in Ukraine or even most of eastern Russia or southeastern Russia. So ammunition depot was allegedly destroyed, and several helicopters was damaged. Yeah. According to the Russians, they also say that they did not expect a strike on the airbase, and despite there were no signs of warning of a possible attack. And the Russians are not very happy about this, or at least the pro-Russian supporters are not really happy about this. Other than that, there is a number of aircraft getting shot down over the single day. On the 16th of October, 3 aircraft was reportedly shot down, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. A Sukhoi 25 over at Arkhangelsk. We haven't seen this name for a long time, Arkhangelsk. And another one, a MiG-29 shot down over Zvozhnetsk, as well as another Sukhoi 25 shot down over Dmitrievka. So, and the important note is that these are all shot down reportedly by air defense. And for air defense, this is a little bit far. It's around 80 kilometers from the front line. and which means that the Russians have kind of deployed some long-range surface-to-air missile system that are able to shoot down this aircraft from a distance. And or it could be a possibility that on this very day, 3 different Ukrainian pilots decided to fly too high. So I'm not sure which one is it. So over in the Kherson Front, at the Kherson Front, there is major developments. The Ukrainian forces has landed enough troops over in the south of Berdyansk, and they have started to launch an attack. I think this the line is a bit too fat. Let me make it shorter. They landed here. They had this salients around here, and they started to push out. And initially there was reports of artillery strikes blocking them, but it doesn't seem to have stopped them for long. So the salient was previously like this, the bridgehead, and then they started to push out. They were struck by artillery all the way. So they were pushing out in 2 different directions. This one was stopped. The one that is pushing towards Oleshki, this one was stopped. However, the one pushing south was not stopped. The Ukrainian forces managed to continue, and they actually managed to capture Pishanivka and Poima. So Poima, correct. Pinishka and Poima, and then Pishanivka and Poima is both reportedly captured by the information from Ryba, the pro-Russian source. So yeah, so if you don't believe in the Russians, this did not happen. So pro-Ukrainians don't be happy about it. No, it didn't happen. So according to Ryba, they also mentioned that Ukrainian forces have now gathered a huge force around Svatove and Berdyansk. The numbers up to 300 men from the 501st and the 1st Battalion of the 36th Brigade. So these forces is likely to be continued to be deployed over to the southern bank of the Dnipro River and to continue the assault further down out of this area, and especially towards Pistepny. And if this is successful, the Ukrainians will have a huge salient around this area here, and this will be basically a huge this will eventually become a huge bridgehead or beachhead in the south of Dnipro River, which the Ukrainians can continue their Kherson offensive, and this would be disastrous for the Russian forces. And this actually was reported by Ryba, and the Ryba is actually not very happy about it. They feel like, why are the Russian defense ministry or the Russian military allowing this thing to happen for the Ukrainians to be able to capture these 2 settlements. So furthermore, there is also amphibious operation southeast of Ponyativka, and there is still amphibious operation over here, and fighting was reported on the Oleshki Island from the 14th to the 15th, and over at this beachhead in this southern part of Dnipro, part of the same salience over at the Pridniprovsk region, they have launched another attack towards Kozachi Lehere. So fighting was reported by Ryba near Kozachi Lehere, and so there is some clashes over in this area here. So previously this fighting was already happened once. The Russians counter-attack and clear out the Ukrainian forces from this area here. However, it seems like the Ukrainians have started to attack again. So looks like the Ukrainian Kherson offensive has started. Kherson offensive part 2, version 2, MK2. So over at Kreminna, there is also shelling reported from the Ukrainian side. So the Ukrainians landed probably over in this island here. I'm not sure what island is that. I cannot find that location, but there is shelling being reported at Kreminna. So the Russian forces in this area here and over at Kozachi Lehere, everyone is now on edge now, because the Ukrainians are now starting their Kherson offensive by the look of it. Whether they will succeed and make this a sustained offensive remains to be seen. But for them to be able to push all the way here, this is actually a decent bridgehead. So let's see how the Ukrainians continue to operate around this area here. Do note that there will be likely more landings As we know, there was already some fighting over at the Kozatske region. So I believe that the Ukrainians will continue to make more landings and overwhelm the Russian defenses over in the Kherson Front. So let's see how this goes. Over in the Zaporizhzhia Front, this is the Zaporizhzhia Front. At the Zaporizhzhia Front, at the Orikhiv sector, this is Orikhiv sector, the Ukrainian forces continue their attack. This time round, they are attacking northwest of Verbove. They are also attacking towards Verbove, towards Novoprokopivka, and the main thing is actually towards the west of Robotine, towards the settlement of Kopani. And the Russians are also counter-attacking towards the west of Robotine. They are attacking towards Robotine itself from the south. They are pushing out of Novoprokopivka. They are attacking southwest of Verbove, as well as against Verbove's main front. And there is also reports of them fighting in the north of Kopani or the southwest of Novosilka. So this is a general picture. It looks very ugly, I know. And so the one at Kopani is reported, southwest of Novosilka was reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces by Kreminna over this position, so help us to continue to draw this front line around here, and to continue to clarify the front line. Over in the west of Robotine, the Ukrainian forces attacked on the 14th of October, whereas the counter attack by the Russians are on the 16th. So it is different days. Over at the attack of Robotine continues by the Russians. It's reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry from the 14th to the 15th. Yeah, so this is ongoing, and then the Russians reported the Ukrainian attack on the 14th. The one at the pushing out of Novoprokopivka was reported by Ryba on the 16th. So no, it's very random. So even though there's a lot of things happening all on the map, but this map is now over the span of 4 days, so the intensity is actually not that high. The fighting around the Verbove towards Novoprokopivka front line it was on the 14th of October, reported by Ryba about the fighting in the southwest of Verbove, and the main fighting now in Orikhiv is actually at Verbove. So the Russians are counter-attacking all the way from the 14th to the 16th, whereas the Ukrainians were reportedly attacking from the 14th to the 17th. So this fighting over here continues to be very, very fierce. Both sides are making push, and particularly the Russians have taken most of the road northwest of Verbove, with geolocation showing their attack on the 15th of October. There are already rumors of the Ukrainian counterattack to retake this road over here, this region here. So we shall continue to see how this goes. And the Ukrainians further up north launched a major attack northwest of Verbove on the 16th of October. According to Ryba, this push in this area here is huge. The assault detachment come from the 82nd Air Assault Brigade with the cover of the Mother Infantry Fighting Vehicle and Leopard tanks, and six company of infantry of paratroopers tried to storm the positions, and so it did not work out tentatively, but at least that's what they say. So let's continue to see, and this northwest could also be here. So I just want to tell you that even though I put it here, the push might actually be here. This is also northwest. So this is just based on the way how I map. I have to put it there. If not, we'll get very confused. So tentatively, just take note that the push might be here or might be here. So depending on how it goes. So let's see how this develop over at the Orikhiv sector. Over at the Hulyaipole sector, this Hulyaipole, there is just geolocation reporting over on the western part of Mariupol, showing Ukrainian forces over at this position. So the Ukrainians are still around there. And further to the east, there is geolocation just off Melanivka. This is the Russians over this position west of Novosilka. So that's all for the Hulyaipole sector. Is just some clarification of the front line. Over at the Velyka Novosilka sector. So this is Velyka Novosilka. This is the Velyka Novosilka sector of the Zaporizhzhia Front. There is fighting reported over at Prione. So geolocation of Ukrainian forces over this position suggests that the Russians still have not captured all the way over here. So like the front line is most likely just around this area here. So there is fighting reported north of Pryony, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, with the Russians pushing. This is 15th of October. And what is significant is the Ukrainians are no longer attacking over at Pryony. We haven't seen this attack anymore. We only see this Russian offensive in the north. And there is also interesting information from the Russian Defense Ministry themselves talking about fighting south of Novosilka on the 17th of October, which means that the Russian push over here might start to push towards the south, because this direction is the south, so the Russians might be pushing in this direction right now. And this geolocation by now might be also outdated, if the Russians are continuing their offensive in the area of Pryony. So let's see how this goes. Over at the Staromayorsky region, we have fighting, the Ukrainians attacking from the 15th to the 16th of October, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, whereas the 15 and 17, which is probably also 15 and 16, the Russians are also reportedly attacking. So yeah, I think I may have mapped this wrong. Russian repel attack. So this might be wrong. So this might actually also same as the Russian Defense Ministry report, and only the 17th was the attack. So yeah, so let me change this on the fly, so that I don't forget about this. So this is actually like this. Yep. So yeah, so this is the 17. So the Ukrainians were attacking, and then after the attack has failed, the Russians counter-attack on the 17th. So this is basically what it is at the Staromayorsky region. At Uruzhaine, we have the Russians attacking on the 16th. So oops. So the Russians are attacking on the 16th, and that's about it. I don't think these are big offensive. I think this is just skirmishes. Nothing really to worry about. Over at the Donetsk Front. So this is Donetsk city, and this is the Donetsk Front. At the Donetsk Front, we have fighting reported in the area of Zolota Neva. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, the Russians attacked south of Zolota Neva from the 16th to the 17th. So the Russians are again trying to attack in this direction, and in the south of Prishaktivka, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry also reported the Russians attack on the 16th to the 17th. So the Russians are pushing in this direction. So from Novodonetsky and Novomayorsky, the Russians are making this push, and we shall see whether this can be corroborated from Russian sources, because no Russian sources talk about this offensive. Only the Ukrainian Defense Ministry talk about it. I wonder if it's a misreporting. Maybe the Russians are doing shelling, and then they read it as an attack. But no, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry also do reports on shelling quite extensively. So yeah, we have to take a pinch of salt and wait and see. Over at the Velyka region, this is Velyka, the fortress city of Velyka. So this is the fortress, and the Russians are attacking Velyka on the 14th, 16th, and 17th. So no reports on the 15th, but most likely there might be fighting also on the 15th. And Mikhailsky is only on the 14th. So which means the Russians are pushing out from this area on the 14th, and by the 15th and 16th, they have already moved nearer to Velyka and fighting over this area here. So rather than the push northward, which the Russians did not do. So let's wait and see how this goes over at Velyka. I wouldn't have much hope for Velyka, to be honest. Don't expect too much from it because the Ukrainians are really very, very strong at Velyka. Over at the Novosilka region, the fighting seems to be continuing on the southern part. 16 to 17, the Russians are reportedly still attacking, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. The Russians previously was attacking in this direction, which is why I mapped it in this area here. And geolocation of Ukrainian forces and Russian forces does suggest that the action is mainly over in the southern part of Novosilka. Previously, most of the fighting was always in this north and northeastern part. Now the fighting is actually over in this area here in the south. So over at this Marinka region, fighting is reported from the 14th to the 17th. This is the usual. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry will always say the Russians are pushing over at Marinka, whereas the Ukrainians are counter-attack on the 14th and on the 16th. So, but this front line never changes. I wonder the Russians ever really have real intentions of capturing the rest of Marinka. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces over on the 16th and 17th in these two positions in the northern part of Marinka suggests that the Russians did not really advance at all over in the northern side. So let's see how this goes. The Ukrainians are doing a decent job, holding Marinka, and this is going to be like the longest battle ever. Like this, they had been fighting this right from the beginning. I'm not sure how long they're going to take to to finish this battle of Marinka. Over at this Avdiivka Front. So this is at Avdiivka Front in the north of Donetsk city. The Russian offensive continues actually. There is fighting being reported at Kreminna, at Svatove, over at this volcano north of Avdiivka. It's not a real volcano, that's just my nickname. In the south of Avdiivka, Opitne, Velyka, Tonenke, and Pervomayske. And there is actually no reports of Ukrainians attacking. It's all the Russians that they are attacking, and the Ukrainians are holding positions all around this area here. The fighting from the east is no longer reported. It's only the usual that is coming from the Russian sources, and Ukrainian sources are also similarly reporting more or less the same place. There is geolocation of Russian forces on the 15th near Novosilka. So, which means that the Russians was actually pushing in this area here, but it was not really reported. The last was 12 and 13. So, over at the Pervomayske region, the Russians continue to be pushing, but on the 14th and 16th. So it's rather sporadic. Ukrainian forces was geolocated within Pervomayske in 3 separate locations. So it shows that Ukrainians have still very strong position over at Pervomayske. Over at this Tonenke region, there is fighting reported near Tonenke. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, from the 12 to 15 and 17. So 14, 15, 17, the Russians are making this push towards Tonenke, and the fighting towards Giverny was reported on the 14th only by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So the Russians are pushing, but the intensity, like I said, is not as high as it was. And the Deep State UA also mentioned about fighting near Berdyansk on the 17th. So maybe the Russians are making this push, in this area here. Not sure, or maybe it's actually towards the west. We're not exactly fully sure what's the situation, but we shall see how this goes. Over at Opine, there was fighting reported here according to Deep State UA on the 17th. So maybe the Russians are trying to push out. I'm not sure. So then fighting is reported around Avdiivka city as well, particularly in the south. There is geolocation of Russian forces crossing this, I think this is a railway. So they are pushing northward. There is a Ukrainian stronghold in this position. So it was overrun by the Russian forces, and the Russians are pushing. And various geolocations are probably also not very important right now already, because the front line have basically moved into the forest region south of Avdiivka city. So, and over in the north, the Russians continue to be fighting over at this volcano. So the slag heap. So basically, it's just a metal waste mountain. Or hill. So from the 14th to 15th, there was fighting in this area here with geolocation by Kreminna Front showing you Russian forces over at this position as they continue to storm up this hill, probably following the road in this direction. So Ukrainian forces are still over here, despite previous reports that the entire volcano has been captured by the Russian forces. This proven to be not exactly real or exactly true. The Ukrainians did counterattack and capture partial of this volcano back. So over at the Svatove, there was reports of fighting at Svatove according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry themselves. here, over here, Svatove, on the 15th of October. This entire salient here have to put a pinch of salt because it's looking like a horse now. And and when when the horse appear, you have to really take a pinch of salt, because horse don't eat salt. Maybe they eat salt, they use the tongue to lick. But anyway, I'm starting to have some doubts because this position is very hard to hold. So fighting at Svatove might actually just be a direct push from Krasnohorivka rather than this salient here. So with no further information or geolocation to prove otherwise, this entire story over here, this story of the Russians reaching Berdyansk might actually be false. So yeah, no geolocation, no image, no photos. Yeah, after so many days, it is become quite suspicious. Fighting is reported at Kreminna again on the 15th of October, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Of course, the Russians are not here. They are probably just here. They are still advancing in this direction. So yeah, so that's something to take note of. So that's it from the Avdiivka Front. Over at this Bakhmut Front, so this is Bakhmut city. In the southern part of Bakhmut Front, the Ukrainians are still pushing. Before we go to the front line, there's some geolocation just off Mayos, showing the Ukrainians are still in this area here. The Ukrainians are pushing over at Klishchiivka region, at Avdiivka, and they are heading towards Orikhiv over this place, and they are still trying to capture Kupyansk. So this is the current situation for the Ukrainian side. The Russians are counter-attacking with limited capacity over at Klishchiivka, and that's and also at Avdiivka. So this is the counter-attack from the Russians. This is the current strategic situation over at this sector over here. Kupyansk is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry on the 14th, and that's about it. The Ukrainians seems to have given up mostly on Kupyansk, and they are focusing in this area of Avdiivka. So this is now the primary objective, these yellow arrows. And geolocation of Ukrainian forces over at this tree line along the railway station shows the Ukrainians are there, and the fighting reported at near Orikhiv is by Deep State UA. Otherwise, everybody just used the word Avdiivka. Russian Defense Ministry reported the Ukrainian attack from the 14th, 16th, and 17th, whereas the Ukrainian Defense Ministry said the Russians counter-attack on the 15th and 16th. So over at Klishchiivka, there is geolocation of Ukrainian forces on the railway, showing that the Ukrainians have made some advance in this area here. This, however small, but this is actually a very good defensive position, and from this area here, they can continue to push out. But no, depending on what is the defensive capability of the Russians over in this area here. The Klishchiivka offensive or the attack is reported from the 14th all the way to the 17th. Every day there was reports by the Russian side about this Ukrainian attack, whereas the Ukrainian Defense Ministry say that the Russians counter-attack on the 15th and the 17th. So most likely the push is not just in the north, but probably also towards the east. But there is no geolocation or any indication of the Ukrainians successfully reach the railway line around here. So tentatively, the assumption is mostly in the north. Over in the northern flank of the Bakhmut Front, the Ukrainians seems to have launched a new attack or offensive operation in the northern part of the Bakhmut Front. Fighting was reported at Orikhiv, Vasilivka from the 15th to the 17th. Similarly, over at Dubovo, Vasilivka on the 15th. So the Ukrainians are making some moves around this area here, and tentatively this one is still ongoing, and probably they want to go all the way straight down the highway. So, or maybe they can flank up and capture Zhelezhnyansk. So that's currently happening. Reports coming from the Russian Defense Ministry themselves. So moving away from the Bakhmut Front, so moving away from the Bakhmut Front, we go to the Svatove Front. This is Svatove, and this is a Svatove Front. There is nothing of significance except for a geolocation of Ukrainian forces north of Spurny on the 14th, showing that the Ukrainians continue to hold position around Spurny, and that's about it. That's all from the Svatove Front. We move into the Kreminna Front. So this Kreminna and a Kreminna Front, and suddenly I saw a peak. This is a peak. this is the year of the pig. The year of the pig. Yeah, and the pig that because yeah, this is the leg, and then yeah, this is the pig. You see, this is the pig. Okay, so anyway, sorry, I got distracted. There is a weird report of from the Russian Defense Ministry on the 14th of October saying that there is fighting north of Serebrenka. Serebrenka is over here. So to have fighting in the north of Serebrenka is a bit weird. I wonder if the front line is moved. The Russians actually make some big progress, causing the front line to go to the north of Serebrenka, which is not really reported by anyone. Yeah, this is just some weird reports, which comes out occasionally from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry or the Russian Defense Ministry. Otherwise, the Ukrainians are the one making most of the offensive operations in this area here. Fighting was reported in the Serebrenska forestry from the 14th to the 17th. Russian Defense Ministry consistently say the Ukrainians are on the offensive, and this also spread on to Kuzmine on the 17th, and Dibrova from the 15th to the 17th. So so the Ukrainians are making this push literally everywhere. The Russians are reported to have attacked on the 14th, and that's about it. That's only one attack. The Ukrainians are the one making all the push. So it's a bit weird to see this report about fighting in the north of Serebrenka. Geolocation of Russian forces north of Dibrova shows that the Russians have control over of the north of Dibrova, and the geolocation of an explosion by the TOS-2. So shows the Ukrainians are still in the area west of Dibrova. So fighting towards Dibrova is by the Russian Defense Ministry as well, from the 15th to the 17th. So this is still an ongoing thing. Torsky also see the same, 15th to 17th. There was Ukrainian attacks, and also over at Yampolivka from the 14th to the 15th. So all these attacks are coming everywhere. So yeah, so it's just interesting that we keep seeing all these reports, but we don't really see a lot of progress. So and geolocation of Ukrainian forces just southeast of Yampolivka, at this position actually altered the front line. Previously, the front line was drawn all the way here. So the Russians probably have been pushed back away from Yampolivka by the Ukrainian offensive. So that could be one. And there's geolocation of Ukrainian forces at Terny, which shows that Ukrainians still are in this area here north of Torsky. Moving up over at the Makiivka region, the Russians continue to be attacking at Makiivka from the 14th, 15th, and 17th of October. The Russians continue to be making the push at Makiivka, and the Ukrainians are reported to have counterattack on the 15th and 16th. So the Ukrainians are desperately trying to make sure that Makiivka do not fall. So that's all from the entire of Kreminna Front. We move on to the Svatove Front. Suddenly, Svatove Front went from the quiet zone to active front line again. The Russians started their attack in this area here again at Novosilka on the 15th, near Raihorodka 17, Sahivka 17, Nadia 16 and 17. Information all coming from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, whereas the Russians say that the Ukrainians attack on the 17th at Nadia and Novosilka on the 15th to the 16th. So depending on who you want to believe, it looks like this. So yeah, I'm not sure who is telling the truth, who is the one attacking. They both like to claim they are the victims. So that's it from this area here. Over further up north, there is fighting again at Stemerkivka. The last attack was actually in September, so it was a long time ago. So suddenly there's an attack appearing on the 16th of October. We haven't seen this report of the attack on the 17th, so maybe this is just a one-off raid, just like the previous attacks that was previously reported. As you can see, 17th of August, 4th of September, 16th of October. So it's just a once a month thing, like period. Over at Novosilka region, there is geolocation of Russian forces south of Novosilka, showing that the Russians are still in this area here holding the line, and this area becomes a stalemate for the two sides. We move into the Kupyansk Front, and all my talking is making my nose hair itchy. So this is Kupyansk, and this is the Kupyansk Front. At the Kupyansk Front, the Russian forces continue their offensive in two different sectors. I actually drew an analysis on this, analysis video on this. You probably might have seen it. The Russians are pushing in the Novosilka, Liman-Pershi region, as well as Avdiivka, Khyslivka region in a two-pronged attack against the Ukrainian forces, whereas the Ukrainian forces are actively counter-attacking at Liman-Pershi, Sinkivka, Olyansk region, and Ivanyivka region. So this is ongoing, and there was some probing over in the south of Vyshana. So the at Khyslivka, the reports of the fighting started on the 17th. This is a new report of the Russians attacking, because previously the attack comes at Ivanyivka from the 14th all the way to the 17th. So the Russians maybe start to push out and maybe force the Ukrainians into a redeployment in this area here, while the Ukrainians are actually pushing over towards Olyansk. The fighting at Olyansk was and Timkovka was reported 14 and 17. Olyansk is on the 15th. So Ukrainians are actually actively pushing back against the Russians in a different sector to distract the Russians into a redeployment. So it's very similar. They are all playing these flanking games on each other. Geolocation of Russian forces on the east of Ivanyivka show that the Russians have actually made a serious advance from the Akhine region towards Ivanyivka, which is likely under Ukrainian control. Because we currently do not know, but most likely they are under Ukrainian control. The last claim was on October 29 last year. So this is last year's claim, and I think I should delete it. No, too long ago. So the Ukrainian counterattack was on the 14th, 16th, and 17th, whereas the Russian attack was reported straight 14th all the way to the 17th. So that's all from the Ivanyivka region. Over at the Sinkivka region, the probing at Vyshana was on the 15th. It was just some sabotage group, recon forces, that was probing the Vyshana region. It was eliminated. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces at Sinkivka showed the Ukrainians are still holding position at Sinkivka. The Russians have not successfully captured it. However, the Russians are making active attack from the 14th to the 17th. And Liman-Pershi was named by Deep State UA on the 17th of October. In the latest report from Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, the Ukrainians were counter-attacking on the 14th at Liman-Pershi and at Sinkivka from the 14th to the 17th. So given that this report, this SITREP is 14th to the 17th, it shows that the Ukrainians are attacking just as much as the Russians are attacking in this area here. So they are making a massive clashes in this area here to get the dominance of this area here. The significance of all these position, how strategic they are, I've already mentioned in this analysis video about the Kupyansk Front. Do check it out if you haven't watched it. Otherwise, there is a reinforcement reported at Petropavlivka, over at Pischane, and over at Novosilka. So this probably is either a reserve force meant for assault, or this could actually form a secondary defense line that is to protect Kupyansk, because the front line may not hold, because the Russians are making a very concerted effort to push through the front line in this area here, as well as in the Sinkivka region. So yeah, so that's it from the Kupyansk Front. And oh yeah, there's also reinforcement reported at Voronezh. Voronezh is a bit different. The reinforcement at Voronezh was tank units, according to the Russian sources, of the 41st Mechanized, and then the tanks are used to shell the Russian position opposite the Oskil River. So, and there's also further detachment from the Mechanized Brigade arriving at Voronezh. I'm not sure if they would dare to try to do an amphibious assault across and hit the rear of the Russian positions. But don't dream too much. Usually crazy stuff don't happen. But who knows, because Ukrainians does do a lot of crazy assault. So anyway, thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe, and I will try to do all this SITREP and reports more frequently, more daily, because yeah, I'm struggling to manage the workload with the Israeli Hamas war, happening at the same time. So I will see how this goes. I need to manage my sleep timing and everything, and then juggle my work that's outside DPA. So let's see how this goes. Thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe, press the like button, and I'll see you in the next update.